Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, we're going to look at the astrology of beauty, the beauty of astrology, the astrology of beauty. All right. So we're just going to get into it. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I always forget to tell you that I'm open and available for reading. So email me, book a reading, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. I'm just going to share my screen and get right into it. All right. So I have a list of beautiful people that I pulled up from the ages, mostly actors, actresses, but some supermodels and whatnot. Um, and what we're going to look at really mostly is the ascendant, planets in the ascendant, aspects to the ascendant, and the ascendant lord, as well as the sun generally, and Venus and Mars. And interestingly enough, Neptune plays into it. All right. So Lauren Bacall, Cancer ascendant. And a lot of these, like, I haven't really, like, it's not like I've studied each one of these. Some of these I have, some of these I haven't. So I'm not, I'm doing this on the fly. I'm not well studied on all these charts, so I'm trying to figure it out just, when I look at it. Okay, so obviously she has Venus on the ascendant, and that's going to be pretty common. Venus in the first house, Venus conjunct the ascendant. That's going to be one of the ones that we see often. We could also look to her ascendant Lord Moon. It's in Aries. It's not really doing anything great, so I don't think that's obviously it. But Neptune's a big one. Neptune will really see a lot with very beautiful exotic women. Venus is very pretty, right? Neptune is exotic. And when you have the combination of the two, you really have something special. And so we'll see this a lot. So Venus and Neptune here, obviously. And then Mercury being exalted, let's see. I don't know if that's really playing into it. It is conjunct the sun, so maybe perhaps we'd have to see more examples of that. So not convinced of that. But in any case, we could also check Venus to Mars. Sometimes that plays into it. Yeah, they're opposite in sign, but not really having all that much to do with each other. Venus is semi-square the sun, so that's interesting. Not really much else going on here, but I think it's mainly Venus, Neptune, North Node, in the first house. Conjunct the second house cusp, so Neptune, North Node. In any case, that's still first and second house will still influence the looks. But let's move along because I want to get through all these and I don't want to take too long. And a lot of this is subjective. I mean, some of it's subjective, some of it's fairly objective, but these were among the list of the most beautiful people, and I obviously did not choose all of them to go over because that would be too many, but a lot of these. So Bridget Bardot, she was I actually don't know that much about her, but a long time ago she was hot and famous and all that. So Jupiter, we can look to Jupiter. So Jupiter's in Libra along with Mercury, exactly conjunct. Happy conjunctions are something that we'll see a lot of with successful, famous people a lot of times. But Jupiter in Libra's okay. Mercury in Libra's okay. So let's see what else is going on here. There's a square to Neptune and Virgo. Not really. Trine to Mars and Leo with South Node. So this one's interesting because I'm not really seeing. Let's see here. So Saturn's in good dignity. Mercury and Venus. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's one of the things that's really going to be really prominent. Mercury and Venus are mutual reception here. And so that's playing into the ascendant Lord. Um, Sun and Libra. Sun and Libra, I mean, not all Sun and Libras are going to be beautiful people, obviously. So that's not it. So it's it's interesting. And some of it's going to be, more obvious, some less obvious, but that's the way it goes. But let's keep moving. I think Libra in general, Libra and Taurus will give generally a sense of, looks, beauty, Venusian qualities, right? And if it's even more tied in with the mutual reception here, then that strengthens it. But let's keep going. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was she was in a lot of old movies. Very pretty woman. Pretty face, right? Sometimes people that have different things going on, obviously. But she was in Casablanca, opposite Humphrey Bogart, leading lady, and she was good in that. In my opinion, not nearly as great or as powerful as Lauren Bacall in the successive movies with Bogey, but it's neither here nor there. In any case, she does have Venus in the first house. Okay. And it's conjunct the sun. Venus conjunct the sun. And then dignified by Mercury. Mercury conjunct the second house cusp in Virgo. Yeah. And Sun is her ascendant lord. So ascendant lord conjunct Venus. Right. So Venus in the first house is always going to positively affect the looks. It doesn't make the person necessarily beautiful, but it will tend towards that in that direction. And it's going to definitely give a Venusian quality vibe to the person. Let me see here. Moon Mars mutual reception. I don't know if that adding to the looks per se. Jupiter and domicile, it's quite good. In any case. It's Ingrid Bergman. All right. Let's go to Halle Berry. So Taurus ascendant. So remember Taurus, that's obviously an easy one. And she's got her North Node right on the ascendant. And Venus is in Cancer, conjunct Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter is actually dignifying this whole thing. Jupiter is expanding the significance of this, Venus. Mars is here, but Mars is neutralized by this very strong Jupiter. And Sun in Leo, obviously, for these other ones. But Venus is the ascendant lord. And then South Node Neptune, that's going to play also into it. South Node Neptune right opposite the ascendant. That's also really, really strong for that exotic quality. We'll see more of that with other people. Got to throw in some guys just to keep it real. And Johnny Depp, even though I don't think Johnny Depp is a very savory character in real life, he's done extremely well for himself, and he's often cited as one of the most handsome guys around. So he's a Leo ascendant in Gemini, but then Mercury's in Taurus conjunct Venus, right? So Mercury conjunct Venus, dispositing his sun, which is his ascendant lord, right? Interestingly enough, this is conjunct, my Mercury is exactly here at 25, and this is conjunct Algol. So Algol can be, I've seen it many times, create a sort of nastiness about a person. I'm like talking about myself. Okay. Well, it has a double side. It has it's very powerful, and it can be a powerful leader, powerful healer. But it can also be highly destructive with drugs and alcohol and abuse and violence. All right. Neptune is in really good aspect to his moon, the sextile there. And then this probably has to do with it, like why he's not so savory. Moon in Capricorn. He's very cold-hearted. Yeah. And it's square Jupiter, so that's not really gonna help with his generosity. And then Neptune and Jupiter are also in aspect here in conjunct. I don't know if that's adding to anything. Neptune is square the ascendant as well, and that probably does have an influence. Let's put it that way, an influence on the ascendant. And then he's got these second house planets, and that probably helps. That probably helps. I mean, none of these are in great dignity, but probably helps. Main thing I think is this Venus conjunct Mercury, Sun in Gemini, Taurus, Ascendant Lord, MC Lord, Venus. All right, let's go. Keep moving on. Leonardo DiCaprio. And we're just going in alphabetical order because that's how they got, saved. All right. Leo's got a very strong first and second house. Tons of planets here. And he's got Pluto, Moon, Uranus, Mercury, all in Libra. And then Mars and Scorpio. Mars is going to be really prominent for men and women, right? But it definitely for men. And then Sun and Venus. And then Mars is dignifying the Sun and the Venus in Scorpio. And then North Node in Neptune, conjunct Neptune. That Neptune does create this exotic quality. Neptune has many aspects, of course, as all the planets do, but for looks, for this kind of exotic quality that we'll see in movie stars and supermodels, it plays a big part. It's very sparkly, very exotic, and great for anything creative, arts, movies, fashion, cinema, all the beauty, creative, even writing, movies, anything like that. Rita Hayworth, she was an older, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if she's in movies, or I just know she was like a big name, movies, model, whatever. So, all right. Anyway, Taurus ascendant, Venus in Libra. So Venus in Libra, with some very good aspects. First of all, sextile Mars. So when Mars and Venus are in really good aspect, that lends an extra hand to the passion, the hotness, the sexuality. These people have a very intact sexuality, and even if they're not physically good looking, this gives them that sexual potency that people really like. It's an extra layer of attractiveness, whether conjunct, sextile, or trine. Trine is probably the best, but. And then North Node conjunct Mars, that's still going to be hot. Not necessarily, it won't necessarily make a person very good looking, but it is a hot aspect. So Sun conjunct Venus, that's a beautifying quality, beautifying aspect. What else here? And then Mars trine Neptune, that's also going to be, especially with North Node there. That's definitely going to add a lot of exotic flavor to it. Let's keep moving. Angelina Jolie. So again, Venus on the ascendant. And then Saturn will not make a person good looking, but Saturn can make add to the flavor of the looks. It can make the person more interesting looking, right? And this is behind the ascendant, but it's still going to influence the ascendant because it's in the same sign, right? And so she has Venus and Angelina Jolie. she's not like, well, she does have North Node conjunct Neptune. So she does have that exotic flavor, but I don't know. It's not as, maybe it's just, I don't know. Main thing is Venus. Venus conjunct the ascendant. And then we can look at Moon. Moon's in Aries conjunct Mars. So Mars rules Aries. So that she has that very masculine quality, where she can play action roles, right? Because she has that very strong Mars conjunct Moon. And then Jupiter's there. And Jupiter is really good because without that Jupiter for a woman, this could indicate that men will take advantage of her because Moon is the feminine, Mars the masculine. And that could be Moon and Mars together. It's kind of difficult. Yeah. But also Mercury in Gemini conjunct the Sun. Sun is still going to affect the looks, influence the look. So like if the Sun is dignified by a planet in domicile or it's in domicile itself, so Leo suns are often, very looking. Not always, I mean, but it can help for sure. There's not going to be one factor alone. Also, Sun opposite Neptune, that's also going to be a big factor. And then Mars trine Neptune. That's definitely, because Mars and Venus are still going to play a role no matter what. So Mars trine Venus or Neptune is a healthy, definitely a healthy one. Let's keep going. Catherine Zeta-Jones, very pretty, especially when she was younger. I mean, all these people are obviously prettier when they're younger. I mean, no doubt. But she's got Mars exalted in the first house. So she's a Mars one, right? So some people have the Venus in the first house. Some people have Mars in the first house. And it's in good dignity. And it's in perfect trine with Venus. Even though Venus is not in good dignity, that Mars-Venus trine, that's hot. That is very hot. Okay. And then Neptune and Scorpio. Some signs are very hot. Taurus is beautiful. Scorpio is got that exotic eye look, the very intense quality. Libra is going to be naturally, good looking. So she got a lot of planets in Libra. See Jupiter. I see Jupiter's in Libra. That's her ascendant Lord, Jupiter in Libra. So that alone will help. And then, I think that's it. All right. Moon trine Neptune. I don't know if that's going to help. I don't know if Moon will. I'd have to see a lot more. I'd have to study it a lot more to see how much of a factor Moon is. But Moon is trine Neptune. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, let's keep going. Grace Kelly. Again, okay, so Venus is in Libra, it's in domicile. It's in the 12th, but it's close to the ascendant, but it's still more 12th. But she does have the Scorpio ascendant, so that very exotic look. And then Mars in Scorpio in the first house, along with all these planets. Mercury, South Node, Sun, Mars, right? Really exalting her, dignifying her looks, adding a lot to her looks. And then, of course, she married the prince, and she's got her North Node in the 7th house, and so that's So Chiron, North Node Chiron is quite mythical, so that's quite interesting. And she does have Neptune sextile the ascendant, and that's going to be really strong as well for that exotic quality. And Sun trine Pluto, that probably brings Sun trine Pluto. I mean, she's got a whole grand water trine, which is really interesting, but that probably helps a lot. Because the ascendant is in there with that grand trine. So adding to the looks. Heidi Klum. So Heidi Klum, she's got a whole Gemini ascendant, stellium, sorry, Leo ascendant, and she feels very Leo, right? I mean, she's obviously very Geminian, but she feels very Leo as well. I mean, I mostly know her from America's Got Talent. Um, but yeah, but then she's got her Mercury conjunct Venus, right? Mercury conjunct Venus in Gemini. So Mercury's dignifying the Venus. It's also dignifying the Sun, which is the ascendant Lord, and Saturn in the okay. And Sun is opposite Neptune, not directly, but pretty close. So that's still going to influence the looks. And Jupiter is stationary in the sixth house, which is interesting. Jupiter is not really playing, it's not really looking at it's not really influencing the looks, but it's interesting nonetheless. You can also look to the second lord. That's going to also play a role. So Mercury conjunct Venus, exact. Mercury is exalted. Let's keep going. Hedy Lamarr. Guys, this is the best way to understand these things. When people talk about astrology, but they're not using examples, all they're doing is repeating textbook nonsense. They're just parroting what they've read and heard. I mean, unless you can, bring it back to examples, it's not going to. It's just kind of like bubblegum astrology. So this is why I always look at examples, because otherwise it doesn't mean anything. People could say, oh, this means that, and that means this, but they're not tying it to astrology. They're not tying it to real life. They're just like, I read it in a book. I read it in a book. It must be true. This is an expert. Never mind that I never saw it in real life. All right. Hedy Lamarr. She's got Saturn conjunct Pluto right on the ascendant. That's exotic. That's interesting, right? And then the semi-sextile to Neptune with Moon in Leo. So that's going to be really, important as well. And then South Node is playing in there as well. So these are all tied up. These are all tied together, right? And excellent for acting, especially when you see that flow from the 12th to the 1st to the 2nd to the 3rd, right? Because then they can really bring the pretense of the 12th house into their expression, into consciousness, and into their voice, and out their hands and their whole entire expression, right? The full flow, right? That's how that works. And then of course Mars in Scorpio with Sun in Scorpio. Right. Ascendant Lord Moon conjunct Neptune, very exotic. Right? And Hedy Lamarr also was the story goes that she invented Wi-Fi or something like, and that's not accurate because I read into it. She worked with a scientist who helped her, who helped discover that. But what's interesting is Jupiter conjunct Uranus in Aquarius in the 8th house. So diving deep, scientific research. Aquarius, very scientific. Uranus, very brilliant, inventive. Jupiter, expansive. And Jupiter also indicates like a tutor or a teacher, right? So she had that as well. And like benefit. Right. So that's interesting. All right. So that's Hedy Lamarr. Sophia Loren, Cap ascendant. That's not typically what we think of for beauty. Well, let's look. I have no idea. Just going in this, I have no idea why she's beautiful. But okay, ascendant Lord, Saturn in the 2nd, conjunct Moon. So feminine for beauty for a woman. That's quite good. Ascendant Lord conjunct Moon. Moon's a feminine planet. Ascendant Lord, a good dignity. Okay. Venus conjunct Neptune in Virgo, but the Sun also conjunct the Sun, so that's interesting. South Node Mars. Interesting. The South Node Mars, I think, does play a role. South Node Venus, South Node Mars, that's going to add for sure. South Node Neptune, that's going to add to the looks, to the beauty, to the physicality. And then Mars, Venus and Mercury in mutual reception. Venus, Mercury, and in good aspect with each other, a few degrees. They're not ascendant lord either. I mean, but it's still going to add a lot to it. You have especially this Mercury, but also Jupiter. It's going to really help out this Venus. And then South Node Mars. So Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So I don't know. I think that might play a role. That might help out. In any case, some of these people are going to be like known for their looks. Some of these people are going to be famous for other reasons, but considered beautiful nonetheless. And so there's kind of a difference between the two. I mean, I think we can sort out who's who if we wanted to, but this is just a very loose overview of beauty and astrology. So Jane Mansfield, another old, beauty. I think she was in movies and stuff. Not really familiar with her. So Moon, Ascendant Lord in Cancer, Pluto in the first house. So that will affect the looks. It's not necessarily going to make somebody beautiful, but it will influence the looks. South Node Neptune. Okay, South Node Mars. All right. And then Moon in Aquarius in the same house as Saturn in Aquarius. Interesting. Sun conjunct Venus, where the sun's exalted in Aries. Okay. So yeah, let me see here. Oh, Mercury and Mars also. Yes. Sometimes I don't notice like right away, like the mutual receptions, but that's a very strong, even though it's in conjunct, it's still really strong. And it's South Node, Neptune, Mars with a mutual reception with Mercury, and it's exact. By in conjunct, but still, it doesn't matter. That's adding a lot of dignity, especially to this Mars, because Mars is a physical planet, South Node. So that plays a huge role. And then again, the exalted sun, conjunct Venus. And what's interesting is that Mars is almost, you could say Mars is trine Sun and Venus, even though it's out of sign. There's still that trinal relationship by degree. So that's still going to help somewhat. Sophie Marceau, French actress, very pretty, very strong. Look at that. Very strong aspects. And that makes it more interesting. Like without even looking at the planets or the signs or the houses, just looking at the strong red and blue lines, we'll know that the degrees are very close, and that makes a very strong resonance with the planets. But in any case, she got Pluto, Mars, Uranus exact conjunct the ascendant. That's very strong for looks. It's going to create a very strong face and expression, powerful expression. And then we got this very strong sextile to Neptune in Scorpio, Sun, Mercury, and Venus, right? With South Node, all in Scorpio. Really strong. And then Mercury, Mars, mutual reception. Bingo. I mean, that's really, really strong here. Mercury is the ascendant lord. Mercury's conjunct Venus, Neptune. I mean, the sun is not, but the Venus and the Neptune, and then the Mars, and then being in Mars' sign with the mutual reception, Mercury, Mars, right on the ascendant. About very powerful. And then none of these other things are playing into our looks really, really strongly. But I mean, Saturn and Pisces opposite the ascendant, Chiron, that's going to add, because it's still aspecting the ascendant. It's still adding to the looks. It's just making it more interesting. All right. Marilyn Monroe. Now, this is an important one because she was such an icon. And very strongly, we see Neptune right in the first house. Yeah. And then Sun, which is her ascendant lord, in Gemini, conjunct Mercury in Gemini. So dignifying the sun. And what else? So we got the Neptune. And then so Venus doesn't rule Pisces, but it is exalted in Pisces. And then Venus is in Mars sign. So there is somewhat of a interchange here, energetic between Mars and Venus. Right. Moon and Jupiter on the descendant. It's still gonna play, play into it. Moon and Jupiter is very positive in any sign. I've seen it not do so well in Capricorn, but generally speaking, it does great together. And that's opposite Neptune as well. So that's playing a huge role. So yeah. You can see. And then North Node Pluto. I don't know if that's gonna, I mean, Pluto, I think would generally make things more interesting. Obviously, she died of a drug overdose, so that's not so great, but generally I think it'll make things more interesting. Mars trine Saturn. Because of the trine, it's probably going to help. If it were like a square A conjunct, probably not, but Saturn Scorpio to Mars probably helps. Michelle Pfeiffer. And there's a lot of people I left out. I just couldn't go. I couldn't get everyone. I just tried to get a variety of different people, old, new, male, female, movie stars, supermodels. All right. Michelle Pfeiffer, Gemini ascendant, Taurus sun. So Taurus sun, South Node in Taurus. That's going to help. Mercury. So Mercury's stationary in Aries. All right. Venus and Pisces. So Venus is exalted in Pisces. And it's semi-square of the sun. That's good because sun's in Venus's sign, so Venus is dignifying the sun. Okay. North Node Neptune, that's going to be very strong too and then trine Mars. All of these things help. Mars and Venus in the same sign, though wide. It's going to add a lot of potency, sexual potency. Saturn, the descendant, still going to influence the ascendant, the first house, and add generally to some interesting, qualities, right? There are a lot of pretty girls out there. Not all of them get famous. Most of them don't. So it's more than just like Venus on the ascendant, you know what I mean? Gotta be a lot of different qualities to get somebody to that superstar status. All right, this is Brad Pitt. Jupiter in Aries. It's not really doing much there as far as for his looks, but very strong first and second house, right? With Mars, South Node Mars, Mars exalted in Capricorn. Sun in the first house. Mars in the first house, South Node. Moving to the second, but still. And then Moon conjunct Venus. But but Mars is dignifying this whole Capricorn sign. Gotta remember that. Mars is helping that out a lot. Let's see, Jupiter square the nodes. That's interesting. Uh, let's see. Mercury is trine Pluto and Uranus, dignifying the house of Virgo, which is his MC and his career, so that's good. Mercury itself is dignified by Mars in Capricorn. With Saturn, the dispositor, in the third house, also in good dignity in Aquarius. So just really strong aspects there. Also, Mercury sextile Neptune. It's playing a minor role because Mercury's ruling the MC and the descendant, so not really a major role, but minor role. Okay. Main thing is this Sun, Mars, conjunct South Node with the whole Capricorn stellium. You know, it's really that's influencing his looks and his personality as well. Very masculine, macho. Claudia Schiffer, supermodel, hot, hot, hot. Scorpio ascendant. She's got that exotic look, right? Really exotic. And then Neptune and Scorpio in the first house. Boom. Jupiter and Scorpio in the 12th, but same whole sign. First whole sign house. Okay. Let's see. Venus is in Libra. And Mars conjunct the MC. Mars and Leo conjunct the MC. That's the same as me, actually, but it's not necessarily going to make her beautiful. South Node conjunct the Sun. That's interesting. South Node conjunct the Sun. Generally, as they get older, they want to drop out of the, worldly stage and go live a bohemian lifestyle. Saturn and Taurus, 7th, perhaps something to do with it. Mercury conjunct Pluto. Mercury exalted in Virgo. I mean, Mercury, I think mainly Venus and Mars, but maybe Mercury also has something to do with good looks. It seems to appear often in good dignity in a lot of these people. I think it's going to be less of an issue, less of a thing, but still somewhat. Main thing is that, we got this Neptune in the first house, and then Neptune sextile Pluto and Mercury in Virgo. So Mercury in Virgo is dignifying this Pluto and this Neptune. Venus in Libra. And then maybe Mars this probably helps. It's not going to be the main thing. Mars in good dignity, right? Mars in good dignity by virtue of being on the MC, angular. All right. Elizabeth Taylor. Jupiter, or Sag ascendant, with Jupiter trine. Sun conjunct Mars, Mercury. Oh, right opposite Neptune. That's interesting. And then Neptune being the co-ruler of this Pisces sign, and then Mercury being, exalted and ruling Virgo. So that's a mutual reception. Neptune, Mercury, Sun. And then Jupiter rules. So Jupiter, Sun, Jupiter. Mutual reception as well. Bingo. Grand Fire Trine, Elizabeth Taylor. She's gorgeous, right? And then Venus conjunct Uranus trine the ascendant. Very powerful. Jupiter, Venus. So this whole grand fire trine is tying into her ascendant with the ascendant Lord, right? So Jupiter dignifying the ascendant. Yeah, and then Venus and Uranus just playing in there. And then Neptune and these guys. Saturn and also in good dignity here. I think that's it. Charlize Theron. Beauty. Venus and Virgo right on the ascendant, but it's stationary. Okay. So it's it's going to be much more potent than a regular Venus. Yeah, it's not in good dignity, but it's stationary. Doesn't matter. Stationary, stationary, super powerful. So she's got Venus and she is very picky. I heard Venus and Virgo is going to be very picky. But yeah, she's a looker, and she's got the very powerful Venus, stationary Venus conjunct the ascendant. Now we can look to Mercury. Mercury dignified. Mercury's her ascendant lord, dignified by domicile Sun in Leo. Neptune in Sag, trine, Sun and Moon in Leo. South Node Mars in Taurus. And then Pluto in the first quadrant in Libra. She's got a nice flow here going, not tremendous, but still. Strong 12th house, first house, second house. Second lord in stationary in the first house. South node Mars. So third house, south node. Any case. Last one, Natalie Wood. Some of these are lesser, like I said, like I don't think Natalie Wood is, I don't know, maybe some people think she's gorgeous. In any case, ascendant lord Libra. So Libra alone, that's okay. It's a Venusian sign. But Venus is in Virgo along with Neptune. Which is interesting. Mars not in good dignity either here in Cancer, but Sun conjunct Mars and Pluto, which is interesting. Moon's in Taurus. Sextile Jupiter in Pisces. Perfect sextile there. So ascendant Lord conjunct Neptune, even though it's in Virgo. Let's see here. She's not as, typically beautiful as some of these other girls, in my opinion, but Jupiter, Moon. Moon, Jupiter. That I think is especially for a woman, that's going to be very, very strong, and influencing the appearances. So I think Moon does, and then Jupiter as well, especially if it's in good aspect, especially for a woman. There's different kinds of attractiveness, obviously. So we're seeing it play out in real life. Jupiter, Moon. I think that's going to be the main thing for her. And then, of course, Venus conjunct, it's a little wide, but still Venus conjunct Neptune, and Venus being her ascendant lord. So still, that's going to play into it. Moon is her MC lord, so for her career, that's really strong as well. right? Because you got the moon exalted in Taurus at 0 degrees, but then you also have Jupiter fully sextile, and Moon Jupiter is a great combination, and Jupiter also is it's in domicile in Pisces, so that's really strong. And whenever you have a sign well represented, so here we have Pisces represented, that's actually going to benefit Venus and Neptune, even if they're not in the exact degree, just because they're getting some of that energy indirectly. It's like living vicariously through, you know what I mean? Like if your partner or your brother or your family member becomes like super rich and famous, you get a little bit of that. You know, maybe they'll take you to some events or whatnot, or maybe I don't know. Maybe it's close to that. Maybe it's even more. Maybe it's like a husband or wife, right, kind of thing. But you're still getting some of that benefit. It's not fully, but there's some degree of connection there. When planets are, when you have a sign that's well represented, planet in good dignity is still going to help the planets there that need that energy, that are in poor dignity. So Venus and Neptune. In any case, that is looking at beauty in astrology, and those are all the ones that I put in, and I think it's enough to get a good idea. You know, we saw mostly the ascendant play into it, first house, second house, ascendant lord, maybe the second house lord, Venus, Mars, Neptune, and then I think obviously sun and moon will still play a role as well, and the aspects between those, definitely. Yeah, I can always tell like if somebody's gonna be really hot, not necessarily like look, because there's a difference between somebody. I just want to throw this out there, and I probably mentioned it before. There's a difference between somebody being photogenic, either for photos or movies or whatnot, and somebody being actually like sexually hot in real life, potent. The sexual potency comes from Mars and Venus, a good aspect there. And not everyone who has this kind of sort of beauty will have this strong sexuality. So there's different kinds of attractiveness that we can really see through astrology. That's not always obvious in other ways. All right. My camera is not focusing well. I have to get a new camera. So, all right. Guys, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and share, and book a reading with me. Macro Go Machine at yahoo.com is my website. Macroastrology.com is my website. And I have to get my website updated. I know that. So I will soon. All right. All right. See you next time. Bye.